Larry Goldberg, did you know that I am a member of an ancient tribe? And for the first time in the history of my tribe, Tropical Storm Kirk has been named. It's expected to strengthen into a major hurricane later this week. Will spark a deadly warning for the U.S. eastern seaboard only a week after Hurricane Helene. Helene, I guess. Helene, I'm not sure. Anyway, so sorry to hear that we're going to send another hurricane your way. I don't want you to feel, bad things towards me, and my tribe as the hurricane comes.
Well, I have to say, this hurricane was a disaster for North Carolina.
Absolutely.
We survived without any problem at all, other than my swimming pool almost overflowing,
Okay. Yeah.
which is a story in itself, but nobody's interested in that and shouldn't be interested in that story. But the mountains, and we're in the foothills, but the mountains of North Carolina got it
Right.
in the neck. I mean, terrible. And I'm not that political a person, and I waver between the political parties, and I waver between the political, and I don't go in for these theories of, anyway. But I have to say this: the actions of the FCC in not permitting
Right.
the installation of the Starlinks is an absolute, it's a scandal of the highest order. The FCC awarded SpaceX the contract to
Right.
install Starlinks in all these, and at the rate Starlink was going, it would have all been installed in the mountains of North Carolina, and lives would have been saved. I
And
mean,
I think the total contract was 885 million. It was a drop in the bucket. They spend that kind of money on lunch.
to replace that 885 million is going to cost them $5 million or
5 billion. 5 billion. Right.
But the point is, we awake in the morning and nobody has any connection to the internet.
Right.
A couple of, our tribe took their internet, it took their Starlink terminals and generators and installed it in the center of Asheville last night.
Wow.
And people could connect.
Yeah.
And, that saved lives. And then a whole lot of us got together, or I shouldn't say us, some Tesla folks got together, and got Starlink terminals in there. Now I understand, uh,
SpaceX.
well, I don't know if it's SpaceX or it's one of I don't know who's doing it, but SpaceX are part of that
Right.
group. And I know that Trump claims that he spoke to Elon and that they're getting but one way or another, Elon gets it done.
Right. Yep.
And so there are people in the Tesla community that are bringing Starlink terminals in. And, God, thank them very much. I mean, we can't be sufficiently grateful because people up there are in dire straits. It's really, I don't know how many lives are lost, but when the accounting is done, it's going to be a terrible, terrible situation.
Definitely.
Anyway, I've been so angry all day because, as I think about it, anyway,
Yeah.
I should.
Okay. Well, let's brighten the mood then. We'll talk.
Yes.
𝐓𝐮𝐞𝐬𝐝𝐚𝐲
Yeah.
today. He said, great job by the Tesla AI team on meeting the goals laid out for September. End to end on the highway is first shipping to Cybertrucks. We are close to an early release build for the remaining platforms.
My Cybertruck. To my Cybertruck.
Your Cybertruck, and they'll be released to the internal employees in a week or so. So there you go, Larry. So talk to me. That you got your Cybertruck FS.
I got my Cybertruck this evening or late this afternoon. I got the update to my Cybertruck. And they had to do an update before they did the FSD update. So when the first update came, I looked at it and thought, oh, it's yeah. I looked at it and it's kind of, some wishy-washy.
Right.
But it turns out that they had to do that to get them all aligned. And then came the Cybertruck release just minutes after I'd completed that one. And then off I went.
Off you went. Yeah, I bet you did.
And honestly, so we know, firstly, I will say that the City Streets version on the Cybertruck seemed to be better than the City Streets version on my X.
Wow.
And whether it was just the, random,
Yeah.
the randomness of the code, but it handled a situation where the X and the 3 had got through it, but not very elegantly. So it is a lane that ends abruptly in the middle of nowhere. And you have to know to keep in the left-hand lane and not to go into the right-hand lane. And in order to know that, you have to know that before you get to the light that enters into that area. Anyway, too much detail. The Cybertruck took the right lane before the light. It was in the correct lane when it got through the light and never had a problem. With both the X and the 3, they both had to exit the wrong lane and get into the right lane with almost no notice at all.
Yeah.
In fact, yesterday I had to come to a dead halt in order to let the traffic through in order to turn into it. Which, I've done with an ordinary without FSD before.
Right.
But the Cybertruck with this version sailed through it without a problem. But that's not the headline. The headline is that on the freeway, it is as smooth as butter.
Oh.
And the key is this is the first release where we have one stack for both city streets and the freeway.
Right.
Now, I will tell you, there was a setting in FSD where you could say whether you want to be aggressive, normal, or very, like grandma mode.
Yes.
In terms of, the navigation, the driving.
Right.
And I discovered after a while that only if you set it on aggressive does it really drive like a person.
I see.
Otherwise, it really drives so timidly that it's not worth it. And a lot of the complaints that I've seen about FSD, version 12 have been, I think people have set the wrong setting.
Uh-huh.
But nonetheless, but the point is that the new version has only one setting, one option. Option is drive according to like the FSD native mode or drive more aggressively.
I see.
One of the two.
Okay.
And my first test, I took the native mode, and it is like the granny mode in the standard slider, the slider that we used to have. So I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow. And I haven't commented yet on X. I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow when I take the more aggressive mode. I think that it will resolve some of the issues, not issues, but some of the navigation that was just too timid for me, it would always hug the right-hand lane, which, by the way, is a lot of complaints that I see on X. And I want to just tell them, guys, just move the slider left.
Right.
Anyway, so that's the story thus far. And then I'll have an update on Monday with a lot of, today's Monday, on Friday with a lot of experience.
Sure.
A lot more mature understanding of how it works. But I will tell you this.
Yeah.
The smoothness with which it does lane changes, the smoothness with which it does exits, the smoothness with which it does merges is truly human-like. And I could not say that of the previous version at all times.
Right. Well, I'm really glad you finally got it, Larry. I mean, just having you on the show, it's almost like we're always waiting for Christmas. Well, or or Hanukkah. I don't know. One of those. So, God,
When they used to call it Christmas or something.
Christmas. I think I've told you the story before. Growing up in a 97% Jewish community, University City, Missouri, and on Christmas, 2 weeks before Christmas, we collected our dimes, and the teacher took, the class, which would have been, let's say, 27 Jewish kids and me, down to the Christmas tree lot, bought a Christmas tree, gave it back.
That's amazing.
That's I'll never forget. It's like so pressed in my
Yeah.
mind. Anyway, okay, so story number 2 tonight. Cars are lasting longer. We know this. Young people are not even getting licenses, much less buying cars.
Right.
Droves. US cars are getting really expensive. And we're now on the verge of
No,
autonomous.
not US cars.
Oh,
US cars and European cars are
Yeah.
getting very
Yeah.
expensive.
right. Both, yes. And we are on the verge of autonomous vehicles really driving down the cost of how you get around, how you get from here to there. The European automakers have just cried wolf, one after another.
Yeah.
Stellantis being the worst, cutting half of its U.S. workforce and saying it's going to lose 5 to 10 billion cash flow, not lose, but their free cash flow, 5 to 10 billion euros next year. Is this the beginning of the end, Larry, or is this
Yes,
okay?
it is the beginning of the end. Look, Stellantis is really not the worst. The worst is Volkswagen, followed not that far behind by Mercedes and BMW.
Wow.
These companies are in dire trouble, and they won't tell you how big the trouble is. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, the seriousness. Look, firstly, they've been hiding under the dealership sort of cover.
Yep.
The dealerships are failing. Now, I'm sure you can find a dealership that's still doing well. 1 out of 20. I'm sure you can find some areas where they're still doing well, but honestly, I'm doing some deep research into Europe right now, and I can tell you, the auto industry is the bellwether of the destruction of European industry.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And most of it you can trace back to the decision, to energy decisions. The German decision to close the nuclear power stations that were in very good shape,
Right.
could have lasted another 30 years, had really no reason to have closed them down.
Mm-hmm.
The buying of this cheap Russian oil and gas, the placing themselves. I mean, just in France, the nationalization of the atomic energy industry has led to terrible problems in the atomic energy industry.
Mm.
Not that private industry may have done much better, given that so much of them were so regulated by the state. But if you just look at the state power in Europe and what it's done, they're in terrible trouble.
Mm.
A lot of it stems from the energy problems, but it's the state-run enterprise, the state inefficiency is endemic throughout Europe.
Mm.
So, yeah, the auto industry is the bellwether of this disaster, and it is a disaster. It's a rolling disaster. We have faced in this country the destruction of our manufacturing enterprises through, I mean, we had really good motivations behind, moving the manufacturing to China, and, we could be a services-based economy, blah, blah, blah. But, Elon has proved to us that we can and should manufacture in this country, that it is critical to our survival. Now, the Democrats and the Republicans have caught on to it.
No.
The question is, do they understand what it's going to take to make it happen?
Right. Exactly. Well, and Larry, it is a natural progression. You know this. You've especially you're quite the scholar when it comes to England. England was a mercantile country long before the United States became a mercantile country. It's
a manufacturing power.
And a manufacturing power until they weren't anymore. And they were way before the United States. They moved most of their business was in finance and services, et cetera. And that's a natural progression for people.
But you got to understand, I think you're missing a link there.
Mm-hmm.
The mercantile economy of Britain was there to service the process of acquiring raw materials in their colonies
mm-hmm.
and manufacturing them into finished goods
mm-hmm.
in England
mm-hmm.
and shipping them to Europe and America
mm-hmm.
and the third world
sure.
as finished goods. And so they became a powerhouse in manufacturing. In the 19th century, we, the United States, had to do a huge catch-up to Britain in terms of industry and manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were behind you. The steel manufacturing, we had to turn to Europe and to the UK to learn how to make high value steels.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually went through the same process, but some years ago, of losing all their industry because it was so convenient to outsource it.
Right. Exactly. All right. So you think this is the beginning of the end, not just a blip, and we'll keep our eye on that. Of course, if these companies don't find a way, and we've talked about this for a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard for them to be able to reinvest in electric vehicles at the same time that they're losing all the capital.
That train has left the station.
That train has left the station. Okay.
That train has left the station. Their approach to EVs, like General Motors, was so, on the surface, so thin. They thought they could get away with manufacturing cars that they could hire either an EV motive power or an ICE motive power. I mean, there was no first principles thinking.
All right. So I'm going to set up a new story here. I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, one of Elon's favorite subjects, and I think it's going to become a bigger and bigger and bigger subject. It came up several times in the news today. Drones. So this was I think this was a note from Morgan Stanley. Yeah, I think so. I didn't write down. You'll probably know who it was. Drones, it says. Is it just me, or are you seeing more breadcrumbs from Tesla's CEO that could potentially connect Tesla with aviation? Tesla sits at the intersection of robotics and AI cars, and 81% of Tesla revenues are cars, and that's falling. That's just one expression. China recently set 2 Guinness Book World Records in Shenzhen with its display of 10,197 drones operating a highly coordinated aeronautic visual display. Tesla's CEO Elon Musk responded with a series of tweets on X on the topic. When someone wrote that the U.S. currently has the capacity to make about 20,000 consumer-style drones a year, China's current capacity is closer to 20,000 drones a day. Musk replied, yeah, it's not even close. Autonomous industrial complex, he called it. In Elon Musk's introductory comments at the second quarter conference call, he mentioned how the world is, he mentioned how the world is headed for a fully electrified transport, not just cars, but also aircraft and boats. Other than the passing mention of electric aircraft during past investor days, we are not aware of such a prominent reference to aviation and marine in an earnings call. We originally discussed the topic of Tesla and the virtual takeoff and liftoff drone and vertical takeoff and liftoff / drone market in 2021. What could a slice of that TAM be worth to Tesla? They actually ran a range of scenarios flexing market share and EBITDA margin assumptions based on their expected $9 trillion TAM by 2050. Yes, by 2050. Discounting back to present value, we're coming up with a potential preliminary outcome on the order of $100 per Tesla share on the low end to $1,000 per Tesla share or more on the high end. We note that our $310 price target does not include any of that. So, Elon has said he believes the future of warfare is drones. I have talked a lot on this channel as well as on Brian Wang's channel about drones in terms of the military, in terms of the strategic requirements of the use of drones, not just for military, but for industry, for agriculture, for so much more. We are way behind on drones, just like we're way behind on so much else. What do you think?
Well, I am an investor in Anduril. Anduril is a drone manufacturer in the United States for military purposes. And their focus is on the highly connected drone. They have an operating system that they call Lattice that connects all their devices together, whether that device is a camera, a drone, whatever. And it is focused on armaments. It's focused on defense of the United States. And, they're very active in Ukraine for the Ukrainian government. And I would venture to say they probably are active. I know that they've sold underwater drones to Australia. And they are outstanding organization. Now, I think Tesla would make an amazing manufacturer for the defense industry. And would tear away, as they've done for SpaceX, they would tear away the layers of bureaucracy and financial management that plague the U.S. arms and aircraft industry. Elon has said in the past that batteries have to reach a much higher level of energy density to be able to go to a electrified flight, aircraft that will carry people. I think he was talking about density of more than double, maybe even triple what it is right now. I would be shocked and surprised if Elon is in that field. I've often thought about Elon getting involved in Anduril, but Lucky Palmer, who runs Anduril, is a pretty capable young man, and he is young. I don't know if he's older than 30 at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, he's an amazing young man. He invented or was the first developer of the of those devices you put on your head, the virtual reality devices.
Yeah.
He didn't so much invent it as he made it practical, and Meta bought his company.
I see. Okay.
And then they kicked him out for political reasons because he supported Trump or something like that. And I'll never forget, I met him at the first All-In conference.
Oh, yeah.
And the interesting story there is that he was invited to speak. and he got up and he lambasted Jason.
Wow.
He told the story of how Jason had called him names. It called him terrible names. Actually, I've seen the video of that. Had said he's one of the worst people in the world. You know how and because he supported Trump or because he wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, Jason was, and Lucky Palmer who was invited to speak, got up and said, before I start my presentation, I want to tell you the story about Jason. And he did. And so Jason came up and apologized like a man.
Wow.
Anyway, bottom line is, when it comes to drones, this company, Anduril, is really focused on that. So getting back to Tesla, I think Tesla's manufacturing smarts and capability could be turned to many things that are lacking in our country today. And it can resolve this hollowing out of our engineering capabilities and our manufacturing capabilities. Whether drones are the right thing or not, I don't know. I'm not sure that this is where I'm not sure this is where Elon's head is. I do know that and I'm sure you do too, that the folks in Ukraine have done incredible job of building, drones that are absolutely, decimating the Russian, armaments depots. And it's been a miracle what they've been able to achieve. So yeah, I mean, we should be building drones. We should be building them by the millions. We should be building smart drones, and we should be building drones that can meet the Chinese volume in the field. But whether that's Tesla's role or not, I don't know.
Yeah, obviously Elon hasn't said anything about actually getting into that business, but it's as you point out, it would be perfectly suited to do that kind of thing. And Elon obviously is becoming more and more interested in these kind of international strategic issues. As such, whether he did it or whether he would be, pushing others, I don't see how we can be strategically. If we continue to have less than nuclear wars, and by that I mean if we continue to have wars, which it looks like we're going to, and they're less than nuclear, I don't see how the United States is going to be competitive if we don't have an amazing drone capability.
Yeah, and we don't.
Right.
And, I don't think they're turning them out by the millions. But to turn them out by the millions, we need political will, and we need, guidance and focus. And I don't think you just turn out 1 million drones or 1 billion drones. I think you have to have a very, very keen understanding of the role. Now, Anduril they are one of the 2 competitors selected by the Defense Department to manufacture aircraft to fly as wingmen to the F-30 or whatever the next version of the F-33 is. Whatever the next generation fighter is. And the idea that only, a certain percentage of the aircraft in the air will be manned, and all the rest will be, fighter drones and, slave drones and so on and so forth. And so Anduril are competing for that project. They're one of the 2 in competition, and my money's on them actually, because they've shown the ability to really manufacture. And, Lucky Palmer is a first principles kind of guy. And he's done an incredible job of that company. They've just done amazing things. But, they're eating capital at a hell of a rate. They keep raising more and more money. So it's going to take a while for that to, but they will revolutionize the defense industries the way Tesla revolutionized the vehicle industry and the energy industry.
Gotcha. All right. Well, then we have I know you've been working on your hybrid video for a while
Yep.
now, and I understand that it's going to maybe come out tomorrow. Do
Yep.
you want to tease that at all? Give us any
Yeah,
kind of,
look, the hybrids are a great mystery to us all because hybrids are busy eating EV's lunch. If you look at the sales charts, and I do have them there, you see EVs rising at a hell of a rate, hybrids rising a little bit lower than them, and then suddenly you see EV's growth rate dipping and hybrids growth rate shooting up, particularly in China.
right.
And so the questions are why and what's happening and what is going to happen. And all you have to do is look at the fact that in China, the dealers are losing their boots.
Wow.
Chinese dealerships lost in the first 9 months of this year $20 billion.
Mm. Because of the slowdown in the overall car business.
And the growth of EVs and the growth of direct sales.
Oh, yes.
The beauty about a hybrid and the reason for the popularity of hybrids is you can use legacy manufacturing plant to manufacture them inexpensively. But more importantly, the dealers don't lose the servicing business.
Right.
In fact, they gain even more money from it.
Yes, right. More things to go.
Yeah. And so the dealerships depend upon the sale of legacy vehicles, and hybrids fall into the legacy vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's really the underlying story.
And you'll tell the rest of it sometime
Yes.
tomorrow on your channel. So we can all
Yes.
look forward to watching that.
Right.
Okay. We also did a story earlier today, Larry, that I just want to touch on for a minute, get your thoughts on it. Brian Wang gave me a quick call the other day. He says, Randy, I've been taking a look at these pictures of the building going up in Shanghai, the new mega factory in Shanghai, and I'm confused. It looks like it's bigger, that the main building is bigger than the Lathrop mega factory. And in addition, there's two more buildings there, which I don't know what those are for. So we had a big four-way discussion about that today with Brian White, Brian Wang, and Bradford Ferguson. And we talked about what we saw as the possibilities, but it was all just, maybe this, maybe that. The main thrust would be out of that apparently when Elon said that the mega pack production would double or maybe even triple, is that maybe that's what he was talking about, is that he's really building in a doubling, twice the size at least of Lathrop.
Well, it could be. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that they're building additional factories. I mean, one thing I will tell you, Lathrop is smaller than it could be, because Tesla have a lot of factories around Lathrop.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Lathrop, you have the Megapack factory, but you have other factories almost as large, if not larger than Megapack, that operate for Tesla. I mean, across the road and around the corner in this whole huge complex. And so I'm not sure that there aren't sub-assemblies or castings being made in those other factories that aren't being consumed at Lathrop, for which in China they would have to have buildings created. So that's one possibility. I mean, I'm not saying that is what it is, but that's one possibility. The other possibility is, they're going for more production, much higher production. So I think all of those remain a possibility. One thing's for sure, the amount of capacity, the ability of China to absorb double, triple, or quadruple the capacity is very clear.
Right.
Given the gigantic amounts of solar that they're implementing. Yeah. So, maybe it is true, but, we'll have to wait and see. But they did say equal or maybe even double. Somebody said, I don't think it was Elon who said maybe even double. I think it was one of the others, but I'll have to look at the transcript.
Right. Another thing that I've been putting forth, Larry, that I haven't seen anybody else talking about is that we could be looking at an extremely large increase in overall Tesla margins, maybe even starting in Q4, but certainly by Q1. And just in FSD uptake alone,
Mm,
if you add in IRA from 4680 cells, those two alone would be very dramatic.
Yeah.
It's like the Cybertruck ramp getting to the place where
Yeah.
continuing to add to margins.
Well, it's been deducting from margin up to now.
Now it would be
this will switch,
right.
and then that makes a fairly significant upturn. Yeah.
And then you've got the lower interest rates, which are going to help on the whether or not you give discounts or if you have to keep giving discounts, even that will shrink in terms of the cost. And then you've just got, probably because of FSD, way more car sales. And as we increase the production out of Texas and out of England, you could have out of Germany, you could see higher margins because of increased throughput from existing facilities. But there was a list of at least 3 or 4 more ideas, but those are the big ones, and some of those are very, very large.
I agree with them. I think you have to temper your excitement. We have to see how it evolves. A couple of things I would say. I think EVs have a way to go down yet in terms of average price. I think that we are getting to price parity, but we're not going to stop there.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go to where EVs are less expensive than ICE or hybrid cars. And at that point, that truly is game over. And I think, a lot of people were very critical of Tesla for dropping the price. But I think it was a strategic move. I don't think advertising or whatever, marketing or whatever, could or should have offset that. I think it was a strategic move to drive the price down. I talk about this in my in my hybrid conversation. It is essential to bring the average price of a vehicle down, and EVs have the capability to do it. We had this whole conversation about Wright's Law with Sam Corus from ARC. And in that conversation, it's clear that, there's going to be another doubling of the total sales of EVs in the next year or two. And then costs are going to come down another 15%. This is the moment that, you turn the screw.
Yeah.
This is the moment you turn the screw. I talked about when you saw, within 5 years, the horse and buggy, the famous picture of Fifth Avenue with all the horses and buggies and just one car. And then 5 years later, or some few years later, there's one horse carriage, but all buggies, all automobiles.
Right.
Automobiles. We're in that moment. And the only way to make that moment come is to bring the price down.
Yeah.
And so Tesla have been dropping the prices of the vehicles faster than the costs have been dropping. And I think that's going to continue. So I'm not one to predict a price rise at all. I am one to predict a continuing pressure on prices and Tesla continuing to play the long game by allowing margins, if not compress, then certainly not rise further.
Yeah, the other side of that story, though, as you know, is that if we have FSD, fully operational,
that's a different number. That is all about how much we can earn from FSD.
Oh, no, but I'm saying that if you got that FSD fully operational, then you've got the take rate on the cars going up. People are coming.
That doesn't change the margin on the cars. In fact, We can even afford to drive the car prices down further.
Well, no, but Larry, my point is going to be, as we've seen Elon do in the past, if in fact we have the factories completely sold out, and which I think will happen once we have FSD operational, then you're sold out and you're now backlogged 5 weeks. He will raise the price at that point.
I don't think he will.
I don't think so. But then you just get into that.
He'll expand production.
Okay. All right. But in the meantime,
he'll expand production. Look, there's a lot of empty space. There is a lot of empty space in Texas. You don't understand it. There's a lot of empty space in Berlin. Where we really need the empty space, which we don't have,
is in Shanghai.
And maybe the additional space is for vehicle subcons. I don't know, but Shanghai, we desperately need space to expand.
By the way, that was one of my suppositions today. It was the second largest building is where the megapacks will be made. The largest building on the property will be for the cyber.
I like it. I like it. I like that.
Yeah. So, but in the meantime, as big as Texas is, as big as Austin is, we could easily start, selling. We're going to have a lot of Cybertrucks being made there. You've got the new Juniper is going to be selling more units all by itself just because it's going to be so amazing. Then you got to make the Gen 2.5 cars in Texas. And
there's still space. There's still space. After all of that, there's still open space. And there's thousands of acres still available.
Well, that's true, but it takes a while to build a building.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm wondering there could be a period of time where we can see price stability or prices going up because you don't want a middleman. You don't want that middleman out there making the money. That's what Elon has refused.
Which middleman is making any money out of Tesla?
In other words, if you get back to the place where you're sold out and you've got a 5-week waiting time, then you can end up getting people coming in and buying the cars and reselling them at a profit.
Yeah,
especially with FSD.
I think we're a ways from that because Berlin could double.
Yep.
Austin could certainly double. And then you still got a lot of open space in Austin, and you got a huge amount of open space in Berlin. You got half a factory in Berlin.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I understand.
And in Berlin could stop buying cars. Europe can stop buying cars from China, use the Berlin factory, and then China can, double its sales in China. He's got strategic options. Yeah, you're right. If all the factories are full and he doesn't have any option to expand, then why not put up the prices? I get that. But, I think they'll buy some of these bankrupt companies, take over their factories and repurpose them.
That'll be interesting.
Why not?
That'd be a
lot of bankruptcies. A lot of bankruptcies.
That's true. Well, speaking of bankruptcies, actually, this is the opposite. The Chicago Business Barometer came out too late this morning for me to talk about it, but it actually went up 0.5 points to 46.6 in September. But the barometer has now been in a tight range between 45.3 and 47.4 for 4 consecutive months. And it's still not great. It's, 50 would be better.
Yeah.
The marginal rise was due to the fact that 2 of the 5 subcomponents improved significantly. Order backlogs, that's a good one to improve.
That's very good.
Employment. Meanwhile, reductions in supplier deliveries, new orders, that's not good. And production restricted the upward move. So a lot of conversation today in the press as we watch what's happening in China with their stimulus. We watch what's happening with the wars continuing. We watch what's happening with all the things you and I have been talking about for months now in the U.S. economy and what's going up and what's going down. And the Fed comes out, Chairman Powell comes out and does a talk today, a major talk. Actually, it was quite interesting. He was a little freer. He wasn't quite as contained in his comments. And he says, look, there's going to be continuous cuts. He says, things could change, but there's going to be a quarter cut in November and a quarter cut in December. And then we're going to have more cuts in the new year. the market at first was like, oh no, and dropped like 200 points or something. And then slowly but surely it came right back to where it was. So what do you think, Larry? We got, it's a lot of stuff going on now. How do we see it after the after all these additional inputs?
That's a tough call. There are green shoots that we're seeing. There are significant green shoots. I don't know. It's very hard to tell. I think there's this waiting period until the election is over. If Kamala wins this election and the Democrats have got a strong position in the House and the Senate, I think the market could take a real hit. On the other hand, if either of them wins the election and the houses are split or evenly divided, and within the even division, there's not too much of a disparity, then it could be, some sort of peace for a while. But, we have a war in Israel, in the Middle East, on multiple fronts. We have a war in Ukraine, which for some reason the Republicans want to throw in the towel and give in to the Russians, which, by the way, will be terrible for the future.
That's a subject for a whole nother day. I don't think you've characterized it the way I would characterize it, but go ahead.
Yeah, catastrophe.
No, I just mean I don't think the Russians want to throw. I mean the Republicans want to throw in the towel. What they want is they want a negotiated peace, and they want
no. There are Republicans that want to literally throw in the towel.
Oh, I see.
I mean, if you listen, to David Sachs, he literally wants to hand over to Putin what Putin wants, and that will only be a peace for a couple of years, and Putin will find a reason to want the Baltics, and then he'll find a reason. I mean, that's just the beginning.
Okay,
that is just the beginning. I mean, Putin has his eyes set on the Baltics because that is his ticket to Europe. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, there's one that we'll disagree on. But it's okay. All right. So I guess my theory on the economy is still the same. I think we are in a recession. I don't think anything. There's a lot of inputs that are shaking my confidence in that. The numbers that come out this week, the employment numbers could certainly impact that. But we'll see what we will see as all of that unwinds over the next 4 days. We got big numbers on Wednesday, Larry. Any change in your number?
No, I'm about the same number. I haven't seen any facts that would deter me.
Okay, 476.
Yeah, I'm at 476. I'm going to publish that tomorrow. So by the time this is in, on X, on YouTube, I'll have that out. So.
All right. Okay, good. All right. Well, let's look at the other numbers right now as we're almost an hour. Can you believe it? Time just flies.
Yeah, it does. I hope it flies for our audience as well.
So we have the Dow ending up barely managing to get back into the green at 1715. The NASDAQ also, after having been in and out of the green, got up to 69 points ahead at the end of the day. S&P ended 24 ahead, and Tesla ended up $1.17 into the green and is down 44 of those in the after hours. I'm quite comfortable with Tesla being a nice and flat, up and down. I think that's just fine right now. I don't have any objections at all. We'll see what happens after Wednesday, though. That could have a big impact either way. Magnificent.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
If the number's 476 or anything around that,
yes.
Does it go up after that or does it go down?
So the street raised their estimates today. I want to say 467 is the new. Yeah, so 476, I think, would be, the market would probably go up on 476. Don't you think? At least a 265, Larry.
It's getting complicated because they're going to announce the energy results, and some people are saying the energy results are going to be down because it's this very spotty, this contract thing, this very lumpy thing. Hard to tell.
Hard to tell. I'd be perfectly happy to have the stock stay in the 450 to 465 range until
250 to 265.
250 to 265. Stay in that range until the big day, and then we'll see what happens after that. Mag 7, almost all in the green. Only Amazon was down. Apple is going crazy. I don't know what that was about. I didn't look it up.
Sales of the new Apple must be doing well.
Must be, I guess so. And the Cathie Woods were mixed. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the bonds. Oh, the bonds won't be, well, they'll be out in a minute, Larry. So we'll do it in reverse today. We'll start with the oil. So oil, call it �𝐚𝐲. It's basically in the pre-market at least, and pretty much all day. 68 for Texas Intermediate, 71 for Brent. That's about where we've been for a couple of days.
But we're down $12 in the year. I mean, we were over 80 or 80.
Oh, yeah. We were in the 90s at one point.
Yeah, but only briefly.
I don't think Texas Intermediate was ever in the 90s, but it was close. It was like 88 or something like that. Yeah, and natural gas. I did do a little deeper study on natural gas, Larry. I even asked Grok, and Grok gave a really good answer. It was really
You left it you to me on this.
I should. So we'll talk about natural gas more, but it is heavily weather. But one of the things we've talked about before is there's so many places with natural gas and oil actually trade off as the prices go up or down. So that's another big one that Grok reminded me about. Natural gas still staying way up there, although it's a little down in the pre-market, down 0.96 in the pre-market to 2.895 though. So still hanging around at close to 3. That is a high number for natural gas. Gold down 3 in the pre-market at 2656. So it wasn't able to hold that 2,700 so far, Larry.
Yeah, it looks like it's had its run.
Maybe. Well, yeah, maybe. A lot of people, no, very few people think it's had its run. The large majority, and that's usually a sign. The great majority think it's going higher. Silver, call it 𝐿𝐴. It has not changed. Copper also, same thing, flat at 4,553. And the dollar mixed, down against the yen, up against the euro, and Bitcoin down 2,519.
Jumps like we're gonna have to start tracking the Chinese indexes because China's stock is on a tear.
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time on that on my early show today.
Okay.
Yes, like 25%. One of their Dow 50, or whatever they call it, their version, up 28% in one day or something. I mean,
right.
How crazy is that? So yeah, that's pretty wild. All right, how about the equities? Dow is saying 53 negative, or 0.12. S&P 7.25 negative, or 0.13. And the NASDAQ also negative, down 26 at 0.13. All three. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before. All down 0.13%. How about that? So there you have it. I do want to remind people, I'm going to put that card up for that thing we did earlier today with both Brians. This is the first time I've been able to have Brian Wang and Brian White on at the same time. So the show was both wrong and right. And and then Bradford Ferguson, a bunch of experts about Lathrop, all in one place at one time. And that card will, I think if you go look at that, you're going to enjoy it. Larry, any parting thoughts for tonight's show?
Wish me luck with the Cybertruck tomorrow. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in that truck tomorrow.
We will look forward. I'll be watching on X to see your preliminary thinking as you drive around. And on Friday, now this Friday, this Friday is Employment Friday. So we might be seeing you on Friday night and Saturday morning. That'll be good for everybody.
I should ask Kathy to join us.
But that would be lovely.
Yeah.
I'll
ask him.
Okay, you can ask.
Maybe short notice.
All right, Larry. Thanks so much as always for coming on. And to all of you folks out there, it has been great talking